Here are 10 terrible signs someone is using you that you must know. Have you ever had that sinking feeling that someone in your life is only there for what you can do for them? Maybe it's a friend who only calls when they need a favor, or a partner who seems more interested in what you provide than who you are. If you felt this way, you're not alone. And today, we're uncovering the 10 clearest signs that someone is using you. But here's the twist. It's not always obvious when it's happening. Manipulation and selfish behavior often come disguised as flattery, friendship, or even love. You might think you're just being generous, helpful, or kind, but underneath it all, their motives might be far from pure. This list will challenge your assumptions and help you spot the subtle and not so subtle behaviors that reveal someone's true intentions. By the end of this video, you'll not only recognize these toxic patterns, but also feel empowered to set boundaries and protect yourself. Because the truth is, your time and energy are precious, and no one deserves to drain them for their own gain. Let's dive in and uncover these 10 terrible signs, starting with one you've likely experienced before, but may not have recognized for what it truly is. 1. They only contact you when they need something. Have you ever noticed that someone only texts or calls when they need a favor? It's not a casual, "Hey, how are you doing?" or a friendly check-in, but rather a direct or indirect way to ask for help. Maybe it's borrowing money, asking for advice, or needing a ride. At first, you might brush it off, thinking, they're just busy, and everyone needs help sometimes. But over time, you realize that these interactions are one-sided. They're not reaching out because they care about you, but because they need something from you. I've experienced this firsthand. There was a friend I genuinely cared about, someone I thought valued our connection as much as I did. But looking back, I can't recall a single time they contacted me just to talk or share good news. Every message was transactional. "Can you help me move this weekend? I'm short on cash. Can you cover me?" Or, "Can you help me with this problem?" It was always about what I could do for them. It took me a while to recognize the pattern because I wanted to believe the best about them. This behavior can make you feel like a tool rather than a person. At first, you might excuse it, thinking, maybe they're struggling or I'm just being kind. But the truth is, genuine relationships are built on mutual care, not convenience. A real friend will ask how you're doing, even when they don't need anything. They'll celebrate your wins, comfort you during your losses, and invest time and effort into the relationship. Reflecting on these moments, I realized that I was draining myself emotionally and physically for someone who wouldn't even ask, "How was your day?" I started setting boundaries, which wasn't easy but was necessary. If someone truly values you, they'll respect your limits and make an effort to connect beyond their needs. Pay attention to how people show up in your life. If they're always too busy for you, unless they need something, it's time to reassess the relationship. Remember, you're not an on-demand service. You deserve connections where both people show up for each other without strings attached. Life is too short to waste on one-sided relationships. 2. Your efforts are not reciprocated. Relationships thrive on balance. It's not about keeping score, but there's an unspoken understanding in healthy connections that effort should flow both ways. If you're the one always reaching out, making plans, or offering help, and they rarely do the same for you, it's a major red flag. I remember being in a friendship where I did all the heavy lifting. I planned the meetups, initiated conversations, and even made excuses for their lack of involvement. At first, I convinced myself they were just busy or not the planning type. But the truth became hard to ignore. They weren't putting in the same energy I was. When I stopped making the effort, the relationship fizzled out, proving it was entirely one-sided. This dynamic isn't just unfair, it's exhausting. You find yourself questioning your worth, wondering if you're asking for too much, but you're not. True friendships and relationships thrive on mutual care, where both parties want to contribute equally. If you're constantly giving and they're only taking, it's time to reconsider their place in your life. 3. They don't appreciate you. Feeling unappreciated can cut deep. It's not just about wanting a thank you, it's about feeling seen and valued for what you bring to the table. When someone is using you, they often overlook your contributions entirely, treating them as if they're expected rather than earned. For instance, I once went above and beyond for a colleague, covering shifts and staying late to help with their workload. But instead of gratitude, I received indifference. No acknowledgement, no thanks, just more requests for help. It was as if my efforts were invisible. That's when I realized people who are using you rarely show appreciation because in their minds, they're entitled to your help. Over time, this lack of acknowledgement chips away at your self-esteem. You start to feel invisible, like your contributions don't matter, but they do. Real friends, partners and colleagues notice your efforts and express gratitude, not out of obligation, but because they genuinely value you. 4. They gaslight you when confronted. When you finally gather the courage to bring up their behavior, the response can be even more telling. Instead of acknowledging your feelings, they twist the situation to make you feel. 2. Your efforts are not reciprocated. Think about the times you've gone out of your way for someone, whether it's lending a hand when they needed help, always being the one to reach out, or offering your time and energy to support them. Now, think about how they respond when the roles are reversed. Do they meet you with the same willingness and effort, or do they disappear, offering excuses or silence instead of support? I've been in situations where I felt like the glue holding a friendship or relationship together. For example, I had a friend who never initiated plans, but always accepted my invitations. I would check in on them regularly, send thoughtful messages, and even go out of my way to help them during tough times. Yet when I faced a difficult period, their silence was deafening. It wasn't just about their absence during hard times. It was their complete lack of initiative to maintain the relationship when I stopped putting in the effort. What I realized was that reciprocity isn't just about big gestures. It's about the small, everyday signs that someone values you. Do they text first once in a while? Do they make an effort to celebrate your wins, no matter how small? Do they notice when you're not okay and offer support without you having to ask? When someone doesn't do any of these things, it signals that their priority isn't the relationship. It's what they can get from it. One-sided relationships don't just drain your energy, they make you question your worth. You might think, if I just give a little more, maybe they'll appreciate me. But the truth is, people who don't reciprocate aren't likely to change unless they see their behavior as a problem. And that usually doesn't happen unless you set boundaries. The key is to recognize the imbalance and decide how much of your time and energy you're willing to invest. Healthy relationships are partnerships where both people contribute willingly and joyfully. If you're the only one doing the work, it's time to step back and evaluate whether the relationship is truly worth your effort. After all, you deserve connections that leave you feeling supported, valued and cared for, not depleted. 3. They don't appreciate you. When someone truly values you, they'll make an effort to show it, through their words, actions, or even small gestures. But when someone is using you, appreciation becomes almost non-existent. They treat your kindness, support, and effort as if it's their entitlement rather than a gift you've chosen to give. I remember helping a close acquaintance through a rough financial patch. I lent them money, listened to their struggles, and even helped them find some job leads. I didn't expect anything in return except maybe a sincere thank you or acknowledgement of my effort. Instead, they acted as if my help was their due. There was no gratitude, no sense of reciprocity, just an expectation that I'd keep stepping in whenever they needed me. Over time, it felt less like kindness on my part and more like obligation, dictated by their indifference. This lack of appreciation can cut deeply. It makes you feel invisible, as if all the energy you've poured into the relationship goes unnoticed or unvalued. Over time, it can erode your self-worth, leaving you questioning if you're even worth appreciating in the first place. The problem isn't with you, it's with them. People who take others for granted are often too focused on their own needs to recognize the effort and care they're being given. True appreciation isn't just about saying thank you. It's about someone acknowledging your value, treating your time and energy with respect, and showing that they don't take your presence in their life for granted. When someone appreciates you, you feel it, not just in their words, but in how they treat you overall. If you notice someone consistently failing to show appreciation, it's a sign to reevaluate the relationship. Ask yourself, does this person truly value me? Or are they just using me to meet their needs? You deserve to be appreciated for who you are and for everything you bring to the table. Don't settle for less. 4. They gaslight you when confronted. One of the clearest signs that someone is using you is how they react when you try to address the imbalance. Instead of acknowledging your feelings or taking responsibility, they twist the situation to make you feel like the problem. This manipulation, known as gaslighting, can leave you questioning your own perspective and emotions. I remember confronting someone about always taking from the relationship and never giving back. I pointed out how I was the one making all the effort, while they seemed content to just take. Instead of listening, they turned the conversation around, saying things like, "You're overreacting," or "I can't believe you think I'm that kind of person." They made me feel like I was being unreasonable or selfish for even bringing it up. By the end of the conversation, I was the one apologizing, despite the fact that I was the one being taken advantage of. Gaslighting is a powerful tool for manipulators because it makes you doubt yourself. When they frame your concerns as unfair, dramatic, or entirely in your head, you start to believe it. You might think, maybe I'm being too sensitive, or perhaps I misunderstood their intentions. But here's the truth. If you're feeling hurt or used, those feelings are valid. Your emotions are telling you that something isn't right, and they deserve to be heard and respected. A healthy relationship doesn't involve blame shifting or denial. If someone truly values you, they'll listen to your concerns and make an effort to understand your perspective. They won't dismiss your feelings or make you feel guilty for expressing them. Gaslighting, on the other hand, is a way of deflecting responsibility and keeping you in a cycle of doubt and compliance. The next time someone twists your words or invalidates your feelings when you try to have an honest conversation, take a step back. Ask yourself if their reaction is about self-preservation rather than genuine care for you. Trust your instincts and remember, Real friends or partners will work through issues with you, not make you feel like you're the issue. Protect your peace, and don't let anyone manipulate you into believing you deserve less. 5. They prioritize their needs over yours. A strong relationship involves give and take, where both people's needs are considered and respected. However, when someone is using you, their needs will always take precedence over yours. Your feelings, goals, or struggles become secondary, or worse, irrelevant, in their world. I've had experiences where someone would constantly ask for my time and energy, but never reciprocated when I needed the same. For instance, I had a friend who always needed advice or support whenever they were going through something, and I was happy to help. But when I was facing my own challenges, they were either too busy or entirely uninterested. Conversations would quickly shift back to their problems, leaving me feeling unheard and unsupported. This dynamic often leaves you feeling drained and unimportant. No matter how much you give, it's never enough because their focus is always on themselves. You might even catch them brushing off your concerns with phrases like, "You'll figure it out," or "That's not a big deal." Over time, this pattern becomes a clear sign that they don't truly value you or the relationship. They see you as a resource to fulfill their needs, not as an equal partner. People who prioritize their own needs over yours often disguise their behavior in subtle ways, making you feel guilty for asking for anything in return. They might frame your requests for support as unreasonable or inconvenient, further reinforcing the imbalance. A healthy relationship involves mutual care and respect. Both people should feel heard, valued, and supported, especially during tough times. If someone consistently puts their needs first while ignoring yours, it's time to reevaluate their role in your life. Ask yourself, do they genuinely care about my well-being, or am I just a means to an end for them? Remember, your needs matter just as much as theirs. Relationships should be a partnership, not a one-way street. Don't let someone make you feel guilty for wanting balance and mutual respect in your connections. You deserve relationships that lift you up, not ones that leave you feeling neglected. 6. They disappear when you need help. One of the clearest signs that someone is using you is their sudden absence when you need support. They're quick to call on you for help with their problems, but when the tables turn, they're nowhere to be found. This inconsistency reveals that they're not truly invested in the relationship. They're only there for what they can gain. I've been in situations where I supported someone through countless challenges, offering advice, encouragement, and even practical help. But when I was going through a tough time, they didn't even ask how I was doing. I reached out, hoping for the same level of care I had shown them, but all I got were excuses like, "I'm too busy right now," or no response at all. It felt like I was yelling into an empty void, and it hurt deeply. This type of behavior leaves you feeling isolated and undervalued. It makes you question the authenticity of the relationship, as it becomes clear that their presence in your life was conditional. They were only there for what they could get, not what they could give. In healthy relationships, mutual support is the foundation. Real friends, partners, or family members don't vanish when you need them the most. They might not always have the perfect solution, but they show up, listen, and offer what they can because they genuinely care about you. When someone consistently fails to be there for you, it's a glaring sign that their priorities don't include your well-being. If you find yourself in a relationship where the other person is absent during your struggles, take a step back. Reflect on whether this connection is bringing value to your life or just taking from it. You deserve people who stand by you in both good times and bad, not those who disappear the moment you need a shoulder to lean on. Recognizing this imbalance is the first step toward protecting your energy and surrounding yourself with people who truly care. 7. They exploit your generosity. Generosity is a beautiful trait, but when someone exploits it, it becomes a tool for their benefit rather than a foundation for mutual respect. They might consistently ask for favors, money, or your time, knowing you'll say yes because of your kind nature. The problem isn't your willingness to give. It's their willingness to take without limits or gratitude. I remember having a colleague who always seemed to need just a little help. At first, it was small favors, like covering their shift or helping with a project. I didn't mind because I believed in teamwork. But over time, their requests became bigger and more frequent. They'd say things like, "You're so reliable. I knew you'd do this for me." But they never returned the favor. They never offered to help me when I was swamped, and they didn't even acknowledge the effort I put in. Eventually, I realized they were exploiting my willingness to help while giving nothing in return. This kind of dynamic can leave you feeling drained, resentful, and taken advantage of. You might find yourself saying yes, even when you're overwhelmed, just to avoid conflict or guilt. The truth is, people who exploit your generosity often rely on your discomfort with setting boundaries. They know you'll go the extra mile because you're kind-hearted, and they use that to their advantage. True relationships are built on mutual generosity, where both people give and take in balance. Exploitation, on the other hand, is entirely one-sided. It's important to recognize when your kindness is being taken for granted and to set boundaries to protect yourself. Saying no doesn't make you a bad person. It simply ensures that your energy and resources are being spent on people who genuinely value you. Ask yourself, does this person respect my boundaries, or do they push them to get what they want? If you feel more like a resource than a valued friend, it's time to reassess the relationship. Your generosity is a gift, not a given, and it should be appreciated, not exploited. 8. You feel drained around them. The people in your life should uplift and energize you, not leave you feeling emotionally, mentally, or even physically drained. When someone is using you, their constant demands, negativity, or selfishness can sap your energy, leaving you exhausted after every interaction. I once had a friend who seemed to turn every conversation into a complaint about their life or a request for help. No matter how much I tried to support or cheer them up, it was never enough. They would unload their problems onto me without asking about my day or my struggles. Over time, I noticed a pattern. I felt worse after talking to them, not better. It wasn't just that they needed help. It was that the relationship was entirely focused on them, with no room for my needs or feelings. When someone leaves you feeling drained, it's often because the relationship is imbalanced. You're constantly giving your time, attention, or emotional support, while they take without offering anything in return. This dynamic can make you feel like their emotional dumping ground or problem solver, rather than a valued friend or partner. Pay attention to how you feel after interacting with someone. Do you feel refreshed and supported, or do you feel tired, frustrated, or even resentful? Your emotions are important indicators of the health of your relationships. If someone consistently leaves you feeling depleted, it's a sign that their presence in your life might be more harmful than helpful. Healthy relationships are energizing. Even during tough times, they involve mutual care and support. that leave both people feeling understood and valued. If someone is consistently draining you, it's time to set boundaries. Protect your energy and focus on relationships that enrich your life rather than deplete it. You deserve to feel good about the connections you have, not burdened by them. Remember, it's okay to prioritize your well-being over someone else's constant demands. 9. They manipulate you with flattery or guilt. People who use others often rely on manipulation to keep control of the relationship. They might use excessive flattery to make you feel special, or guilt to pressure you into doing things for them. These tactics are not about genuine connection, but about maintaining their advantage over you. I once knew someone who was an expert at this. Whenever they wanted something, they'd start with over-the-top compliments. "You're the only person I can trust with this," or "You're so amazing for always helping me." At first, it felt good to be appreciated, but I began to notice a pattern. The flattery wasn't sincere. It was a setup to get what they wanted. On the other hand, if I ever hesitated to help, they'd quickly pivot to guilt. "I thought you cared about me." Or, "I guess I'll have to figure it out on my own." This emotional manipulation traps you in a cycle of compliance. The flattery makes you feel obligated to help, while the guilt makes you feel bad if you don't. Over time, you might find yourself agreeing to things you don't want to do, simply to avoid the guilt or maintain their approval. Recognizing these tactics is key to breaking free from the cycle. Flattery and guilt are tools manipulators use to blur boundaries and keep the focus on their needs. Genuine relationships don't rely on manipulation. They're built on honesty, mutual respect, and understanding. If someone is constantly using these tactics, take a step back and assess the situation. Ask yourself, do they truly care about me, or are they just using emotional manipulation to keep me compliant? Once you see through their behavior, it becomes easier to set boundaries and protect yourself from being used. Remember, you don't owe anyone your time or energy, especially when their methods make you feel uncomfortable or coerced. Stand firm in your worth. You deserve relationships that are based on authenticity, not manipulation. 10. You question their true intentions. One of the most telling signs that someone is using you is the nagging feeling that their intentions aren't genuine. Deep down, you start to sense that their actions are more about what they can gain from you than about a sincere connection. This unease doesn't come out of nowhere. It's your intuition picking up on subtle red flags. I've experienced this in relationships where everything seemed fine on the surface, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. For instance, there was a colleague who was overly friendly whenever they needed my help with a project or a favor. But outside of those moments, they didn't engage with me or show any interest in my life. It became clear that their friendliness wasn't about building a real connection. It was about keeping me close enough to use when it was convenient for them. This kind of behavior often leaves you feeling confused. You might find yourself asking, do they really care about me? Or am I just imagining things? Genuine relationships don't make you question someone's motives repeatedly. When someone values you, their intentions are clear. They want to be in your life because of who you are, not because of what you can provide. If you're constantly questioning their authenticity, it's worth pausing to evaluate the relationship. Are they there for you during your highs and lows, or do they only show up when it benefits them? Do their actions align with their words, or do they make promises they never keep? These questions can help clarify whether their intentions are genuine or self-serving. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. Real connections leave you feeling secure and valued, not suspicious or uneasy. Don't ignore those gut feelings. They're often your best guide. You deserve relationships where you don't have to second-guess someone's motives, where the connection is built on mutual care and respect, not on hidden agendas. Prioritize those who show up for you genuinely and let go of those who make you doubt their true intentions.